The Lie That Became Truth, Part 1, The First Lie. Rain traced crooked lines down the windows of Ethan Miles's apartment, catching the neon light from the city below and dragging it like molten color across the glass. Inside, the only other glow came from his monitor, hundreds of lines of code stacked like iron bars. He should have been sleeping. He hadn't done that properly in weeks. Tonight's deadline was impossible, and the project lead was already sending messages that buzzed like flies. Ethan's eyes burned. He rubbed his temples and whispered, "It's done." It wasn't. The words slipped out the way all tired lies do, habitual, almost harmless. He hit send on the email anyway, subject, completed update. Ready for push. Then he leaned back in his chair and stared at the ceiling fan turning in slow, crooked circles. "Tomorrow," he muttered, "I'll fix it tomorrow." When he finally slept, the city outside seemed to hum louder, like the circuitry of the world had caught an extra current. Morning 1. Ethan woke to a barrage of notifications. Brilliant work on the patch. Client loves the new build. You saved us weeks, man. He scrolled through them, heart thumping. The code hadn't worked when he'd closed the laptop. He opened it again now, and froze. The bugs were gone. The functions he'd half-written were complete, documented, and optimized in his own syntax. He searched for explanations. Maybe he'd coded in his sleep. Maybe an automatic recovery file. But deep down, something colder stirred. That night, curiosity overrode fear. He faced the blank console and said aloud, as if speaking to the machine, "There's $1,000 in my top drawer." He laughed nervously, shut the laptop, and went to bed. Morning 2. Crisp bills. A stack thick enough to warp the wood. Real, smelling faintly of ink and metal. Ethan stared until the numbers on the notes blurred. Then he whispered the line again, testing the weight of it. Every lie becomes true. The idea thrilled and terrified him in equal measure. He told himself he'd keep it small, white lies only. But the human heart always wants to press further, the harmless ones. He lied about his coffee being hot, it burned his tongue. He lied about the neighbor's dog being friendly, it wagged at him for the first time in months. He lied that his parents had forgiven him, and the voicemail they left that evening sounded warm, unfamiliar, healed. Each new proof loosened something in him. The lies were easy. They filled cracks the truth never could. At work, his manager mentioned a promotion. Ethan smiled and said, "I already got the offer." By morning, the email arrived. He felt powerful, no, untouchable. The city's noise seemed to move with his pulse. The first shadow. On the 5th day, the lights in his apartment began to flicker whenever he spoke a lie. Once, while shaving, he muttered, "I'm not afraid." The bulb above the mirror popped, showering him with sparks. He told himself it was coincidence. The mind seeks patterns where none exist. Still, that night he dreamed of strings stretching out from his mouth, threads of sound connecting to the sky, to buildings, to the beating heart of the world. Each string pulsed when he spoke, reshaping the landscape around it. When he woke, one phrase echoed like a warning, "Something hears you." The dinner. Friday night. His friend Marcus dragged him to a rooftop bar, loud music, laughter, the hum of drones above serving drinks. Ethan tried to act normal. Marcus leaned close. "You've changed, man. Promotion, confidence, what's your secret?" Ethan smirked. "Magic words." Marcus laughed. "You dating anyone yet?" The question struck a nerve. Ethan lied out of reflex. "Yeah. Her name's Anna." Marcus's eyebrows shot up. "Good for you, dude." Ethan shrugged it off, but unease knotted his stomach. The next morning, a message waited on his phone. "Anna speech balloon, can't wait for dinner tonight." He stared until the letters swam. The profile picture showed a woman's face, soft-featured, eyes pale gray like morning fog. He didn't recognize her, yet her tone and later texts felt familiar, intimate, as if they'd known each other for years. At 7 p.m. a knock at his door. Anna. She stood in the hallway holding a small plant in a clay pot. You said I could bring this, she smiled. He let her in because fear would have been too strange to explain. Everything about her, voice, gestures, the way she looked at him, fit perfectly into a life he hadn't lived. Over dinner, she spoke of places they'd visited, jokes they'd shared, moments he could almost remember if he tried hard enough. The world had filled in the blanks of his lie, stitching memories like patches on a fragile cloth. When she touched his hand, the lights dimmed again. Ethan, she said softly, don't lie tonight. He froze. What? Her smile didn't reach her eyes. They listen when you do. Before he could ask, she kissed his cheek, whispered goodnight, and left. He ran after her into the hall, but the corridor was empty. The voice. That night, the phone rang at 3 a.m. A flat, mechanical voice, Ethan Miles. Stop altering the weave. Each fabrication consumes another truth. You are breaking the balance. Static filled the line, then silence. He tried to trace the number, no record existed. Even the call log was blank. When he looked up from the phone, words had appeared on his computer screen, bright against the dark, tell no more. The compulsion. He couldn't stop. The power was addiction disguised as language. He lied that the storm outside would end, and the clouds peeled back instantly, revealing an unnatural full moon. He lied that his childhood friend was still alive, and a message from that friend arrived within the hour, dated 10 years in the future. Each change carried a wrongness he could feel, like gravity tilting. Newspapers showed headlines that contradicted one another, people spoke with uncertain pauses, as if remembering two lives at once. On the subway, a child pointed at him and whispered, "He's the mouth." The cracks in reality. By Sunday, reflections began lagging behind movements. He turned his head, and the mirror self lingered half a second longer, eyes pleading. In the street, clocks disagreed. Some spun backward. A flock of pigeons froze mid-air for an instant before resuming flight. Ethan retreated home, locked every window, and sat trembling in front of the monitor. He typed one final test, "This will all go back to normal tomorrow." Then he whispered the lie aloud. The city exhaled like a living thing. Midnight. When sleep took him, it came violently, soundless, deep. He dreamed of the strings again, only now they tangled around his body, pulling tighter each time he breathed. Far above, something vast and faceless tugged back. A whisper crawled through the dark, "Every lie births a world. Where do you think the old ones go?" He woke screaming. The morning after. When the alarm chimed, the world felt wrong in quiet ways. The sunlight pouring through the curtains wasn't the faint gold of autumn, it was sharp, almost metallic, and his shadow on the wall bent slightly to the left although the light came from the right. Outside, sirens wailed, not in panic but rhythmically, as if part of a parade no one had organized. The news ticker at the bottom of his phone screen scrolled, "Global System Update 2.0 complete." No one seemed alarmed. Ethan's stomach turned. "Normal," he whispered, testing the air. "Everything's back to normal." For a second, the apartment shimmered, the edges of the table blurred, the bills on his desk faded like sand caught in wind, then solidified again. He realized the lie had worked halfway. The world looked normal. But it wasn't his world anymore. Voices in the static. That evening he avoided screens, yet the television turned itself on anyway. Snowy static filled the image, and through it a woman's voice, distorted but familiar, "You told me not to lie tonight." Anna's voice. The screen flickered. Her face appeared, pale and anxious. Behind her, the city skyline bent like wet glass. "They're coming for the tongue," she said. "The one that spins the weave." Her eyes darted sideways, then the feed cut. Ethan unplugged everything. The silence that followed felt alive, like something listening through the walls. A visit. 3 knocks echoed at the door. Each slower than the last. He opened it before thinking. The hallway was dark, the overhead bulb swinging. A man stood there in an ill-fitting suit, his face smooth as wax, features barely carved. "Mr. Miles," the man said, voice too even. "You've been selected for a correction interview." I didn't apply for anything. Every distortion must be reviewed." The man smiled, but his teeth were flat, uniform like keys on a keyboard. "May we come in?" "We?" Ethan whispered. A second figure stepped from the stairwell, Anna. Her eyes were no longer gray but pure white, like polished bone. "Ethan," she murmured, "tell him no." The man turned his head mechanically, bones clicking. "That would be unwise." Ethan's throat closed. "You need to leave." Anna raised a trembling hand. "Say the word, Ethan." "Lie." He didn't know what to say, only that every syllable mattered. So he gasped, "You're gone." Light burst between them. When it cleared, the hallway was empty, no man, no Anna. Only a lingering smell of burnt paper. Fragments. Days blurred. Reality no longer followed a straight line, it looped, hesitated. Neighbors greeted him twice in the same morning. A billboard near his window changed slogans every blink, each phrase a different lie he'd once told. "I'm fine. I'm not alone. I'm happy here." He tried writing truths in a notebook, hoping to anchor himself. "My name is Ethan Miles. I live in apartment 402. I am 28 years old." When he looked again, the lines had rearranged themselves. "My name is Ethan Miles and so are you. We live in apartment infinity. We are still being written." He slammed the notebook shut. The meeting. On the 7th day since the first lie, Ethan wandered into the city seeking noise, people, light, something to drown the whispers. The streets pulsed with an offbeat rhythm, as if the city's heart was slightly out of sync with itself. A woman was waiting at the tram stop. Hood drawn, silver hair escaping around her face. She looked up before he could pass. "Ethan." He stopped cold. "Do I know you?" "Not yet." Her smile was tired. "But I remember you from before you spoke the first false word." He studied her. "You remember before?" She nodded. "Some of us do. We are what's left when truth dies slowly." She introduced herself as Mira. Her eyes glowed faintly, like reflections from a screen in darkness. "What's happening to me?" he asked. "You opened the gate between stories," she said. "Lies are bridges. Each one you tell builds a new world and weakens the old. The things that live in the in-between, they're curious. Curious. They feed on contradictions. On the space between what was and what is." Ethan felt cold. "How do I stop it?" Mira tilted her head. "You can't. But you can choose which truth survives." He wanted to laugh but couldn't. "Why me?" "Because you said it," she whispered. And the world listened. The return of Anna. That night, Anna returned. No knock this time, she was simply there when he turned on the light, sitting at the table, tracing her finger through the condensation of a glass. "You sent me away," she said softly. "You weren't real." Her smile flickered. "I was. I am. You made me with a lie, but what's the difference? Everything begins as belief." He backed away. "You warned me not to lie." "I did." She looked past him toward the window. "Because when you do, it writes over me. I vanish piece by piece." Outside, the metallic moon hung low. Its reflection quivered in the windowpane, distorted by static. "I can fix it," Ethan whispered automatically. Anna's eyes widened. "Don't. Tomorrow, everything will be fixed." The glass shattered. The aftermath. Wind howled through the broken pane. The city beyond was wrong, colors reversed, buildings leaning as if caught mid-melting. People walked backward down the street. The air itself rippled, heavy with the scent of ozone. Anna was gone. Only her voice remained, whispering from every reflective surface, "You lied again." Ethan fell to his knees. He understood now that each falsehood wasn't just rewriting his life, it was erasing someone else's. He crawled to the computer and typed blindly, "I never lied." The screen responded, line by line, error, truth conflict detected. Resolution pending. Please remain still. The silence. Everything stopped. Sound. Motion. Breath. Even thought slowed until it was a single echo in his skull. In that frozen instant, he heard a whisper not outside but inside the fabric of the air, "Ethan Miles, speaker of inversions, teller of Genesis. You have birthed us." Shapes formed in the stillness, thin silhouettes stitched from the black between things. They leaned close, headless yet seeing. "Speak again," they hissed. "Make us more." He wanted to scream, but his throat locked. Only one thought burned clear: if silence could hold them, silence could save him. So he said nothing. The world twitched, and time lurched forward again. When motion returned, the room was empty. Only the message remained on the screen: silence is also a lie. The drift. Morning came without sunrise. The city was caught between frames, streetlights frozen mid-blink, rain suspended like beads of glass. Ethan walked through it feeling as though he were moving inside a paused film. People still existed, but wrong, faces blurred where mouths should be, voices repeating short loops of conversation. Lovely weather. Lovely weather. Lovely. He covered his ears. The repetition was his own voice. Somewhere in the echo, a whisper, "We speak because you lied first." He ran. The collector of words. The library should not have been there, an enormous stone building squatting in the middle of a motorway. Yet when he stepped inside, the world outside vanished. Dust, candlelight, endless shelves. A figure moved among them, robes stitched from pages. "You are late," it said, quill scratching on a parchment that smoked where the ink touched. "Who are you?" "The collector. Every falsehood must be recorded. Yours are multiplying faster than I can bind them." Ethan saw books bearing his name, hundreds, each title a phrase he'd once thrown into the air. The topmost volume pulsed, alive. "What happens if you stop writing them?" The collector looked up. "Then the lies start writing me." The collapse. Desperate, Ethan tore the first book open and read the line that began it all: "The update is done." He shouted over it, "It's not true. I never finished it." The world convulsed. Pages burst into ash, shelves folded inward, the collector screamed without a mouth. Outside, buildings buckled and letters spilled from their walls like blood. When the tremor ceased, silence stretched so wide it felt like falling. In that silence, Myra's voice: "You tried to erase the seed. Now the garden will eat the gardener." The doorway. He turned and found her standing amid drifting letters. Each one glowed faintly before fading. Mira reached out a hand. Behind her, a doorway pulsed, made of words, light, and shadow interlaced. "What's on the other side?" he asked. "The place between truths," she said. "Step through, or you'll dissolve with this one." Ethan looked back at the collapsing shelves, at the last book still whole. Its title burned, "The First Lie." He hesitated, then whispered, "Tomorrow, everything will make sense." The doorway flared, swallowing the sentence, and him with it.